This was a great battle that took place 2,200 years ago, also known as one of the 8 bloodiest battles in Western history. The single-day death toll set the highest record in Western war history. In an era that used phalanx formations, Hannibal, hailed as the father of strategy, gave the Romans their first taste of what tactics truly meant. In 219 BC, the famous Carthaginian general Hannibal made a decision to attack the city of Saguntum, which was allied with Rome. Infantry charged, and catapults launched burning projectiles to assault the fortress. Hannibal's purpose in relentlessly bombarding this small city was to provoke the Romans and instigate a war between Rome and Carthage. 40 years earlier, his father, Hamilcar Barca, had suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of the Romans, losing both honor and territory. Now, after 40 years of dormancy, Carthage can finally attack again. Under Hannibal's leadership, the warriors stormed the city walls, captured Saguntum, and set it ablaze. The Roman ambassador to Spain, Terentius, was furious and demanded that Hannibal withdraw his troops from Saguntum. In response, Hannibal dismissively said, "Saguntum is in Spain, not Italy." Undoubtedly, Terentius was enraged. Upon hearing the news, the Roman Senate dispatched a delegation led by Fabius to Carthage, demanding that Hannibal be handed over for Roman judgment.
Here, within the folds of my toga, hang peace or war. Which shall you choose, Carthage? Peace or war?
This was a historic confrontation between Carthage and the Roman Republic. However, the Carthaginian elders refused to take responsibility, and thus the Second Punic War began. Hannibal's army consisted of soldiers from Spain and various parts of Africa. Although they had different skin colors and beliefs, they shared a common goal: to restore Carthage's glory and defeat the Roman Empire. After the army assembled, Hannibal learned that the Romans had sent 2 forces, one landing in Sicily to attack Carthage directly, and the other landing in Spain to tie down Hannibal's army and prevent it from quickly aiding the African mainland. In response, Hannibal made a bold decision to march directly to the Roman Republic and bring the war to their homeland. Since the Romans controlled the seas, Hannibal had to march along the Mediterranean coast and cross the Alps. Soon, Hannibal led his army southward into Spain. Having only defended during the First Punic War and ultimately losing, Hannibal chose to take the initiative this time. To achieve his goal of fighting on Roman soil as soon as possible, Hannibal sought the help of local barbarian tribes, paying them a large sum of gold and silver. However, not long into their journey, the army was ambushed by the barbarian tribes. The barbarians, who had been lying in wait, relentlessly hurled spears at the Carthaginians. Unfamiliar with the forest terrain, the Carthaginians suffered heavy casualties. Hannibal, facing a barrage of arrows, charged toward high ground. Although ambushed, he did not lose his composure. Soon, they wiped out the barbarians. Hannibal paid a heavy price for trusting these barbarians, but fortunately, a few captives could guide them out of the forest. By autumn, Hannibal's army reached the Rhone River in southern France. People with weak bodies can no longer bear it, and the farther they are from home, the more depressed they become psychologically. Meanwhile, the Romans had landed in Marseille, just 3 days away from the Rhone Valley. Hannibal decided to cross the Alps. When the Romans realized the Carthaginians' purpose and rushed over, they found that they had already left. Hannibal's army had already reached the foot of the Alps. If they could cross this barrier, they would bring the battle to Roman territory. Standing at an average elevation of 3,000 meters with freezing temperatures, the Alps remain an impassable barrier to this day. As the army advanced, some soldiers succumbed to the harsh environment. Despite their preparations, the Carthaginians, accustomed to the climate of North Africa, struggled to endure the cold. In the vast snowy mountains, thousands perished daily due to the extreme conditions. However, even so, Hannibal did not stop, because he knew that if they chose to stop now, they would only face annihilation. After 33 grueling days, Hannibal finally crossed the seemingly insurmountable Alps. Though they had traversed the mountains, the army was reduced to just over 30,000 men. This force was no match for the mighty Roman army. Nevertheless, Hannibal did not give up. Instead, he sought the aid of barbarian tribes in northern Italy. As the saying goes, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." Upon meeting the tribal chief, Hannibal directly proposed an alliance to attack Rome together. However, the chief saw Hannibal's remaining troops as weak and doubted their ability to defeat the Romans, so he refused the proposal. With no other choice, Hannibal decided to go all in, using his 30,000 men to fight the entire Roman Empire. Meanwhile, Scipio's army was closing in. Hannibal laid an ambush along the Romans' path. As Scipio's forces entered a forest, Hannibal's army launched a surprise attack. Caught off guard, the Romans suffered heavy losses. In their first battle on Roman soil, Hannibal emerged victorious, forcing Scipio to retreat in disarray. Upon hearing the news, the Roman Senate panicked and urgently recalled troops from Sicily to reinforce Scipio's army. However, in the subsequent Battle of Trebia, the Romans lost 20,000 soldiers. At the Battle of Lake Trasimene, the Romans suffered another devastating defeat, losing a consul and 15,000 soldiers. Hannibal Barca had become a nightmare for the Roman Republic. The Roman Senate was in a state of panic. Just as they seemed out of options, the military dictator Fabius stepped forward. He decides to adopt the tactic of holding the fort. And if Hannibal's army is deprived of supplies, it will surely die without a fight. Meanwhile, Hannibal, fighting far from home, faced his own challenges. A plague swept through his army, causing numerous deaths. Hannibal himself lost an eye to the virus. To force the Romans into battle, Hannibal ordered the destruction of enemy houses, crops, and anything else the Romans valued. Unable to tolerate such provocations, the proud Roman senators chose to fight back. With Varro as the new Roman consul, they decided to take the offensive. Thus began one of the most famous battles in history. In August 216 BC, the two Roman consuls, Varro and Paulus, along with the tribune Scipio, led an army of 80,000 infantry and 6,000 cavalry against Hannibal at Cannae in southern Italy, in what became known as the Battle of Cannae. The Romans deployed their traditional phalanx formation, with Varro confident that their numerical superiority would prevail. As the battle cries echoed, the fight began in earnest. Hannibal first sent his cavalry to charge, ordering them to repel the Roman cavalry at any cost. His goal was to lure the Roman infantry into attacking. Sure enough, when Varro saw that his cavalry was outmatched, he immediately sent his infantry forward to press the border. Hannibal's forces slowly retreated, giving the Romans the illusion of victory. This tactic was designed to draw the enemy deeper into the trap. Believing they were on the verge of victory, the Romans pressed forward, unaware that they were falling into Hannibal's plan. With the Romans fully committed, Hannibal sent his reserves to flank the Roman army from three sides. Trapped, the Romans desperately tried to retreat. Just as they began to fall back, a group of Numidian cavalry appeared behind them, cutting off their escape. Hannibal once again defeated the Roman Republic, nearly annihilating their 80,000-strong army at the cost of only 6,000 of his own men. Hannibal had proven his unparalleled military leadership once more. Although the Battle of Cannae was lost, the Romans did not accept defeat. The Roman Senate convened again, and Fabius proposed lowering the military service age to 17 and offering amnesty to criminals and slaves to quickly form a new army. He also insisted on continuing the scorched earth strategy to wear down Hannibal. Upon hearing this, Hannibal was furious and sent his brother Mago back to Carthage to request reinforcements. However, the Carthaginian elders refused and instead ordered Hannibal to send his army and supplies to aid Spain. Shocked by this decision, Mago could hardly believe it. After years of fighting Hannibal, Scipio had learned his tactics. To put his new knowledge into practice, Scipio led his army to Spain and captured the Carthaginian regional capital of New Carthage. Throughout the campaign, the Carthaginians were no match for Scipio. The Roman army swept through Spain, forcing the Carthaginian elders to recall Hannibal, who had been fighting in Rome for 15 years. In 202 BC, Hannibal and Scipio fought a great battle at Zama in Carthage. Although Hannibal had never been defeated in his 15 years of fighting in Rome, this battle was different. Their former allies, the Numidians, had switched sides, giving the Romans a cavalry advantage for the first time. Hannibal's only advantage was that his army outnumbered the Romans nearly 2-1, and he had 80 war elephants. As both sides prepared for battle, the fight began. Hannibal first sent out war elephants to make a charge, with the intention of breaking the enemy's formation at once. But when the war elephants rushed to the Roman army, they suddenly opened a passage to avoid the onslaught of the war elephants. The Roman army then raised the spears in their hands and struggled to throw them at the war elephant troops. The war elephants, who were invincible just a moment ago, were killed or wounded in the next moment. The surviving elephants, panicked, turned and fled, disrupting the Carthaginian lines. Seizing the opportunity, Scipio sent his Numidian cavalry to attack. These former allies of Hannibal now sealed his fate. The Carthaginian army was defeated. Hannibal, who was already in a hopeless situation, then realizes that the person who knows him best is actually his enemy Scipio. All his weaknesses were exposed to the Roman army. Perhaps the outcome of this battle was doomed before it even started. In the end, Scipio defeated Hannibal with his tactics, and Hannibal had to flee the battlefield in a hurry. But as long as Hannibal lived, Rome would have no peace. During the 19 years of his escape, Rome never gave up the hunt for him. Finally, they found him in Bithynia, in northern Turkey, but Hannibal would never give the Romans the chance to kill him, preferring to cut himself rather than be a prisoner of Rome. Thus, Hannibal died in 182 BC at the age of 65. To this day, Hannibal's legendary story continues to be told. In military history, he defeated Rome 3 times, with the Battle of Cannae standing as his greatest triumph, still hailed as a miracle.